Hey everybody, Asher here, and it is Free Play Friday. Today it is Path of Exile, The Awakening, actually. It's almost going to be a new expansion here, given March is coming up soon. But we're going to be playing some Path of Exile today. This is my second attempt to record this video. I actually had a very bizarre set of lag followed by crashes before. So hopefully we can get a video out from here. Let's go ahead and log in. This is through the Steam client. And we're going to be playing a character that I think, play previously. It is Standard League this time, so sorry for some of you who may want some hardcore street cred. This was a hardcore character who sadly met her demise. But today we're going to be playing a Summon Raging Spirit Witch. Let's go ahead and just talk about the game a little bit for those of you who aren't familiar with it. Talk about the build for those of you who are familiar with Path of Exile. Let's hit the play button and get started. So, this is Path of Exile. If you're familiar with Lion Eyes Watch Act 1 Town, you're going to spend a lot of time here. This is cruel difficulty as well, so we are level 44. As I said before, this was a Flame Totem Witch who, because of a free respec that I got, I switched it to Summon Raging Spirits because that seemed more interesting. In fact, this character plays a lot like a Zoomancer. For those of you who are very unfamiliar with Path of Exile, it's pretty much a modern rendition of Diablo 2. Obviously different setting and everything, but it pretty much the developers, Grinding Gear Games of New Zealand, were really like Diablo 2, were really frustrated that Blizzard hadn't come through with a sequel yet, so they went and made it themselves over a long period of time. But there's a few mechanics just to talk about briefly here. First off, skills that you may have. It's kind of like Diablo 1 in a way, is that you find skills or you get awarded skills from quests. Now, it's not in tomes that you memorize. It's in gems, like for instance, I can summon skeletons. For instance, I can summon Raging Spirit. And kind of like Final Fantasy VII for those of you who may or may not have played the game, each of your items has a certain number of slots to them. Red, blue, green, or white. I don't have any white slotted items here. And color of the gems, except for white items, correspond and go into those different sockets. So like for instance, I have Summon Raging Spirit and I have 3 support gems with it. Spell Echo, which pretty much lets you double the amount of cast of a spell. Minion damage, which Raging Spirits are minions, so 40% damage increase. And then Melee Splash, so anytime those little minions attack and there's other targets nearby, they will deal additional damage. So little connected skills like that, like Raise Zombie, and then I have support gems to increase resistance and minion life. And each of these gems will level up on their own. I really like the system. It feels familiar while at the same time encourage you to really scour for items, try and make things work as well. Now we'll talk a little bit about what the skills look like for this build, because this is, I think I did a count in my first attempt to record this video that can put out at least at level 44 with completely unoptimized and self-found gear. It can put out 32 units on the screen at the same time, which for those of you who remember is a Zoomancer, or also known as a Lagomancer in Diablo 2. First off, enjoy your PTSD. Second, the fact that the game kind of lagged and lurched on me is a little bit surprising because I hadn't done it before recording, but here we are. Other part of Path of Exile, just worth bringing this up if I'm going to talk about the build. If you played Final Fantasy X, you may remember the junction system. Well, Path of Exile, for those of you who have not seen the skill tree before, has a greatly expanded one, and you can take your skills and abilities pretty much anywhere on the tree you choose. And there's some really good builds that you can get out of it. Just depends on where you want to go. Like for instance, with this build, I did follow a guide from someone else who did this before. I did go to Lord of the Dead and some of the summon stuff in here. Did get some of the health stuff here because I was playing hardcore back at that point. Did get Death Attunement, which is nice because it increases specters, minion damage, and life leech as well. Got minion instability because that's a really nice synergy with Raging Spirits because they get low life really easily and then they explode. I probably don't need might anymore just for my gear. I probably do still need agility. But as we go down here, we have just some other options here. A few more summon specific things, a few life specific things back from when I was alive in hardcore. We're going towards the Scions area, which is a little bit of the middle. And now what I'm trying to do with this build is to get some auras and some aura abilities, because as you'll see in the game here, you can get different friendly auras for yourself, but they take a percentage of your mana globe. Now, technically the guide that goes with this asks you to use your life globe as your resource instead of mana, and that is a thing that you can do. But while leveling, you have to be a little bit more judicious. So my next goal is actually to go up here to get some of this stuff influencing everything. But my immediate priority, because we are playing on cruel difficulty, and right now I want to get purity of flesh and life and chaos resistance, because if we look at my character sheet, I'm at negative chaos resistance, and we do not like that. You want to be captain resistance as much as possible if you're playing hardcore. But even on softcore, it does matter. It is like nightmare difficulty in Diablo 2. Now, and for those of you that don't know, nightmare difficulty in Diablo 2, you lose like 33% resistance. And then in hell difficulty Diablo 2, you lose 75. I believe that's the same in Merciless. So let's go to the prison. We're going to be taking on Brutus, because why not? I seem to do that every time I record a Path of Exile video. Maybe this time it won't crash out on me. Let's go ahead and hop over. So we do have an Exiles Everywhere race starting soon. I was originally going to try and do a race for Free Play Friday to put up, but it didn't quite work out that way. But let's talk about the different skills and abilities that we have here. First off is Discipline, which will grant an energy shield to me and my allies. Eventually, I can get a support gem that will just greatly increase the radius and effect to allies, but won't affect me. The second thing that I have is Summon Chaos Golem. Chaos Golem's nice because it gives you physical damage reduction. I have Zombies, which are my meat shields. I can have 5 of them at a time. Specters are essentially the same as raising or reviving enemies here. They follow you as little ghosts, and they're indefinite. I can have 2 of those. The other thing is Summon Skeletons, but I don't actually summon skeletons. I summon a totem that summons skeletons, which hopefully it'll start doing that in a minute. I guess not, because I'm not under threat from enemies here, but those skeletons will persist for a while. And the reason I have a totem that does it is because of the actual support gem spell totem. And then of course we have Raging Spirits, which this caused some weird lag last time. It may have contributed to a crash. But I can summon like 15 or 16 of these at a time, with all things going very well. But let's go ahead and just wander around a little bit. We'll see if we can get some good stuff here. And it looks like we already have... Oh good, we've got lots of people all around us. So I'm going to summon my little skulls. And you can see this is a build that's more about letting the summons do stuff for you, which was always one of my favorite ways to play in Diablo 2. I'm just going to go ahead and raise my zombies. These take substantial amounts of mana to raise, but you can see my Raging Spirits do not actually survive for a very long time, so it's important that I just maintain them, and you want to have good cast speed on top of that. Alright, so what's she going to ask me to do? Pack of Vermin, find the infected beast den, and then using scattered pools of blood. Okay. Alright. Now, there's some... Even though I'm going for Brutus, there's different things that you can do in the game. Different NPCs that you want to level up. Because they'll eventually come to town and try and help you out. But the big thing for now is that I haven't raised any Specters yet, for whatever reason. There's not a lot of great ones to raise around here, to be totally honest, but we might as well just raise some zombies. Just so we can say we have them. Plus, I have this ability, Convocation, which I don't use it a lot. It is decent as a heal over time, but it also summons all these morons over to you. So that's pretty good. Okay, now we already have... I guess that is the corrupted area over there, because that does not look like the lower prison staircase that I'm looking for. Alright, so we got an elite pack over here, Shatters, who explodes a little bit, but because I have my resistance and all of my summons get an energy shield, we're a little bit better here. Now these side areas are a bit tougher on cruel difficulty, and sometimes you'll get some crazy mixes of stuff that'll just outright wreck you. Which is how I've lost more than a few characters. As you can see, my chaos resistance is failing me ever so slightly. My zombies are already disappearing, but my little flaming skulls are going to carry the day. So once again, gotta spend so much mana. Didn't actually drop anything that I was very interested in. There's a few specific sets of sockets that I'm looking for, but to be honest, it's something where I'm going to need to be higher level to get some of the amount of links and sockets that I need. Alright. Let's go ahead and take it back up here. That little thing floating around me is from a flask that's down here. Quicksilver flask, one of the earliest things you can get in the game. I should really go about leveling up and making good things of it. So a little bit of experience bonus. And she's level 3. Cool. So that's fun. But the nice thing about these flasks and what makes them very different from, say, Diablo 2, or even Diablo 3, where it's just on a hard timer, is that as you kill enemies, your flask regain charges. Like this one has 21 charges, this one has 10 charges. Each use requires... Oh, that's not where we want to go. Of course not. That's the entrance from where the waypoint comes. It's like, la la la, this is so easy. But let's see. I was making some valid points. I was actually having a pretty good self-discussion about Path of Exile before. Because it's one of those things where I guess I've been on a bit of an ARG kick lately, action RPG kick lately. Played Diablo 3 for a while, and as usual when I play Diablo 3 lately, I'm like, you know what, I really like Path of Exile. I should try Path of Exile again. And I pretty much have only played hardcore characters on Path of Exile. Not because I'm like super cool or anything, because I'm not. It's just what I've happened to play is I need to learn my cartography here and figure out where I'm missing the way over. There it is, I think. Maybe. No. I've just dead-ended myself twice. So we'll talk and we'll figure it out, I guess, because I have seen enemies on the other side. Guess we'll just go down here. Maybe we go this way. There we go. There we don't go. But one good place to, obviously, to get information and resources for Path of Exile is the Path of Exile Reddit. And Path of Exile has a very good community. But I say that with the caveat that it is a very, very critical community. Like, when I ask questions, just pretty much like, I'm playing hardcore mostly, just ask for some general advice. I try to ask as specific questions as possible, because I know a lot of people don't like getting the, hey, derp, help me, I don't want to figure it out myself. But still, a lot of the answers that I got were from people essentially questioning why was I playing the way I was playing instead of the way they thought I should be playing. And you get that a lot of Path of Exile, and I think some of that just boils down to the game being... Okay, at its core, it's still an action RPG that relies on you using skills by pressing buttons. So to that end, it's not super complex. What is complex about it, though, is the way you can build your characters. There are... I don't want to say infinite possibilities, but there are possibilities on a cosmic scale, just given the amount of options that you have for skill choices, build variants, gems, things of that nature. So probably some of the most sound advice that I got, though, was to stop hitting my head against Act 4 in hardcore, because I just kept losing characters to it. And go back to play softcore. And I think back to myself, I was like, you know what? I pretty much only play hardcore in Diablo now. But in Diablo 2, I didn't play hardcore until I got through the standard game first. Diablo 3, the same thing. In fact, Diablo 2, I had a lot of problems playing hardcore because I would lag so hard in the Duriel fight at Act 2 that I would actually usually die from Duriel before things loaded. Yay, we're now past where I broke the game previously going to the upper prison. Still, though, it's, like I said, Path of Exile is one of those games that I've always liked, but I thought to myself, like, you know, it's kind of silly that I'm not really, like, stuck on I have to play hardcore because it's the only way that I find the game interesting, although I do prefer to play hardcore. It's just that you gotta give yourself the time to learn the game, too. Because the difficulty in Path of Exile, like I said, there are multiple possibilities to build a character a certain way, and that means there are plenty of opportunities to make yourself severely underpowered. That's where looking at guides is fine and even encouraged, and I've seen plenty of people even get into each other with guides being perfectly valid, but it's almost the, if you're familiar with World of Warcraft, as we get some of the melee splash damage going on there, some of the elitist jerks mentality of, you know, that's pretty cool that you can do that, but why not min-max? Why not do this as well? And while I'm not much of a min-maxer, I am a lot of enjoyer of action RPGs, things like this. So we'll see if we can... This is like the worst possible path I've ever had to get to Brutus. Okay, that's definitely not true. But I feel like I should have made more progress towards him already. So we'll just summon some Raging Spirits here. I know some of you may be a little curious as to why I keep using the totem when these skeletons last for 20 seconds, but the totem's only up for 8 seconds. As you saw previously, it doesn't summon unless there's actual enemies or threats around, because that's how the spell cast totem works. But one of the things that I do like, it's kind of a Binding of Isaac thing, or more for that than other games I hear, just looking at different synergies that are in the game, between the skill tree, between what different characters can do. And really, it's just the only differences in class other than aesthetic are where you start on the skill tree and some of the quest rewards for gems. But you can still pick those up from other classes, put it in your stash, swap it around. So it's all pretty good here. I feel like I should be killing some of these guys faster, but it is cruel difficulty, so maybe not. Important thing is that I'm not dying. I guess one of the revelations that I had recently from switching from Flame Totem to Spell Totem with Summon Skeleton is that, like a lot of action RPGs, you gotta take some time for your build to really come into its own, and then you start to get excited. And if there's one knock on the comparisons that I see between Path of Exile and Diablo 3, which I do like both, and I do enjoy both, don't get me wrong, it's that the combat in Diablo 3 tends to be more fun. Which is true to a point. I mean, you executing moves, things exploding, going around, tends to be more on display in Diablo 3. But that's more just in the early game. In the early game for Path of Exile, it's a lot like Diablo 2. You have your one skill, maybe your two skills, that's all you need. That's all you really can viably use, is you can hear those pings on the right-hand side of just skills leveling up ever so slowly. We do have Convocation and Spell Totem. Yay. So you can see all my little skeletons coming up here. How many things can we get on the board? 14 plus 6 plus 16, that's 32 at a time, maximum. Really what I need for gear is better cast speed, just like really, really, really high cast speed. So that's something we can shoot for. But if there is one challenge with the summoner builds or with the summon raging spirits, well, there's two fundamental ones. One is that because these are all summons, I can't directly control where they attack. I can try and use Convocation to control where they move sometimes. But on some of the Act 4 fights where you really want to take on certain things, the Malachi fight attacking the hearts comes to mind, and was my own personal experience of, I'd already died on Act 4 when I got there, but it was pretty rough around the edges. It's like, I can see some other people just like, okay, I attack the hearts, I'm okay, but these skulls just have their own ideas of where they want to go, and it's not always where it will immediately save me or anything. But fortunately we're not getting a lot of lag like we were last time, and I'll add my skill point when I get to probably before Brutus. Might as well. Now, one thing I will mention about Path of Exile again is that you can get it directly from Grinding Gear Games. You can get it on Steam. It is free to play. One of the things that a lot of people talk up, but very few people follow through with, is that Path of Exile literally is free to play, not pay to win. The only items in the cash shop, except for stash tabs, which you may have seen that I did buy some stash tabs, or maybe you didn't. I don't remember what I did record or I didn't record. This is a game where you can't just pay to get ahead. Other than maybe more stash space is very helpful. But everything else is cosmetic, and I'm so impressed that they've been able to keep up with that even years later. So let's see. What did I tell myself before? I do want to go up, and I do want to get the aura junk that's up here. Reduced mana reservation is pretty important. Plus, going up here will let me take out some of these nodes that I don't really need because I'm not on hardcore anymore. And that'll free up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, which is pretty cool. That's why I have those refund points. But for now, I think it's a little more important that I just go for the Chaos Resist first. Anyway, we're not even having to worry about Chaos Resist because we have a very physical fight ahead with, I almost said the Butcher. Wrong game, with Brutus. This is not the end of Act 1, by the way. And they did change some stuff with Act 1. Now, Piety's little thing is still going to be here. Hi, Piety from Theopolis. Oh, she says something different on Cruel. That's interesting. On normal, she just says an exile here, WTF. But I guess we've had enough playing around in Cruel that she knows who I am. Anyway. Yeah, they did change, and that was actually the point I was going to make. Like, in the end of Act 1, I'm forgetting now what I'm talking about, there's a lot of new dialogue and stuff. It actually calls to some of the stuff that comes up in Act 4. I think it's pretty cool how they laid that out together. But yes, we do have our Follow the Trail of Blood. It's like cookies. And here's the Warden's Chamber. We'll see how my summons do, because like I said, one of the fundamental flaws is that you can't target specifically what you want to. The other things is that summons tend to be pretty squishy. Granted, my zombies have 2,000 life and about equal resistance to me. My skeletons will be constantly spammed out. And everything here has physical damage reduction, which is good versus the Butcher. I don't really have great summons at all for my Spectres, but whatever. Let's take them on. Should be a fairly straightforward fight. Because kind of like Nightmare difficulty, if you know what you're doing and you have a pretty good build, this is the part of the game where things start to really go your way. Because your build's starting to come together, your skills are starting to come together, you get to link certain things together, and Brutus, which was a stressful fight for those that were unprepared before, it just falls by the wayside like it's nothing. Granted, 3 of my zombies wouldn't say that, one of my Spectres wouldn't say that. And I can summon some of the corpses that he had here. Heavy belt, I probably don't need it. Crystal wands, okay, let's go ahead and identify this ring. Yes, even identification scrolls of wisdom, are items that are used as currency. Sapphire ring, probably better than the rage loop. Although I want cold resistance for both. Let's switch it up here. Cold damage plus gold attacks. I think that may work on the Raging Spirits. I can't remember for sure. But double resistance. Actually, that's just a outright better ring. Let's check and make sure we didn't totally screw our resistance here. No, we're still okay. We did lower our lightning resistance, but it's okay. Like I said before, Path of Exile is a lot of fun. You do kind of need to know a bit more about what you're doing, but I'll talk a little bit more in closing here when we go to the gates. Because if there is something I did not fully appreciate in Path of Exile until I got to Act 4, it's just how much the difficulty ramps up between the acts. Act 1, even on Cruel, is still kind of your just, okay, getting to know you, getting the game. Pretty much, not anything will work by this point, but enough stuff will work where you can possibly BS your way through some of this. As you can see, my lesser lightning resistance may be a little bit of a problem here. But what also comes into play is that by Act 4, there are some bosses that, unlike Acts 1 and 2, it's not just tank and spank. You've got to know the mechanics, you've got to know what you do, you got to know the tells, or you're just going to get completely ass-exploded. And it's one of those things where, when I'm playing hardcore, one day sometime, I'll be able to solo through all those fights by myself. I thought this character wasn't very squishy, but I was mistaken. The other side of the coin, though, is that there's no shame in getting carried by somebody through some of this stuff. I mean, Path of Exile, as I said, has a very supportive, very helpful community, but you just have to be ready as well, because it's a very min-max oriented community. It's one that people will call you out if you don't really pay attention or just ask dumb questions. So just things to keep in mind. I mean, I'm hardly the master of anything, as you can see. As my skeletons, once again, I have to kill 3 packs of monsters, and they've got like 2 down, none to go. Some decent stuff there. These little fire packs are completely obliterating my summon crew. But the goal here is just with this character, and I've got another one that I also killed in hardcore that I really like. But the goal is just to get on softcore to the end game so I can get used to it, get the hang of it, and then build up to playing hardcore again. You cannot transfer your wealth from hardcore or from softcore to hardcore or permadeath mode. However, if you die, you get all of your stuff sent to Standard League. So that is one big benefit that this game does have over Diablo 2. Which is interesting because people are like, oh yeah, Path of Exile is so much cooler. But on the other hand, if you lose a character because they die, it's not permanently destroyed. Although some people will say it might as well be dead because it's in Standard League. And maybe that's true for you badasses out there, but for people like me who, although I've been playing the game for actually years, literally years, I haven't played it like consistently enough to get through things. And I think that's one of my philosophies going forward, and one of the reasons that I've been doing more Free Play Friday stuff. I looked recently at XCOM 2, which is a game I'm very excited about, but I have such a backlog of games right now. Like, literally backlog of things I want to play. Even games that I do play a lot, like Darkest Dungeon, if you've seen my videos, you know that while I'm making progress, I'm not nearly as far in the game as maybe I could be. Let's go to the ship graveyard. And it goes back to the same thing. I can't put hours and hours and hours a day into playing games like maybe I used to. Real life, all that jazz. So what that leads into is just you gotta be a bit judicious with what you play. And like I said, XCOM 2 is a game I'm incredibly excited about. But I think back to my relationship with XCOM 1 with it, which is that I really enjoyed XCOM 1, but I did not actually beat it until, let's see, I'm trying to think of the time frame. I got it around release, and I didn't seriously do a playthrough to try and win the game until probably last year? 2 years ago. Because my son had just gotten home from the hospital. I was like, whoa, I can't sleep. I'm just going to play XCOM. And then I ended up doing a playthrough that was really interesting to a point, because I'd been doing a lot of Let's Plays. And let's kill this guy, because he's like a little loot pinata. And my raging spirits will actually keep up with him, maybe. They're going after him hard, but he may be able to escape in time. Yeah, there. He's going to get out. He's going to get out, isn't he? Yep. He ran away. That's too bad. Once again, you can't always attack the things you want to attack, and it's hard to corner the guy, too. But what's the point I was making there? Is that there's a lot of games I like. There's a lot of games I'm interested in, but I even look back at, like, the last Steam sale. I got some games and I was like, oh good, I can just make a few mini-series, play through some games and everything like that. There's things that I bought that I still haven't touched. There's things that I bought that I still haven't touched from multiple Steam sales ago, and I know the backlog for Steam is real, but eventually you just make an assessment as like, do I really need to buy something that's new, full price, when you have lots of other stuff that you bought at a discount that you haven't even touched? And that's especially to say when I'm even picking up games like Path of Exile again, as we hear the new Merveil. Like I said, they give a little bit more backstory here from stuff that was introduced in some of the subtext and some of Act 4. And I guess I'll kill Merveil here just because, for the sake of completeness, I don't need to necessarily make this video like super short. And for those of you who maybe haven't played Path of Exile in a while, yes, it was a change from a while ago, but they did significantly shorten Act 1. There were a lot of filler zones that are no longer filler zones, which I think is a fantastic change. I think they cut out like 3 zones worth of area between sub-zones and everything like that. Yeah, I guess there are a few things that were surreal about playing XCOM. And I know some of it is just the fact that I was already so sleep deprived anyway. But on top of that, as we're just going to let the Raging Spirits kill this guy here, it's just that I was playing on not the highest difficulty, but the next to highest difficulty, which if you remember some of my Long War videos, which I've failed you all, and I'm sorry, because I know a lot of you wanted to see me play the Long War some more, and I just have not had the time to really dedicate to reading up on what's a good thing to do instead of just derping on missions. Because there's a lot of derping on missions. Especially since I did aiming angles like I thought I was a boss, when clearly I'm not a boss. But other than the point of not losing a single person after waiting to play for a long time, just the fact that it was kind of nice to play something without having to do like a whole let's play of it. I could just play it, enjoy it, go through it, not have to worry about processing, not having to worry about uploading and everything, which I guess is one of the benefits of the way Twitch works now, with automatically transferring files to whatever this thing's called, YouTube. Yeah, definitely not safe strats here for Softcore League. Okay, so Cavern of Anger. The idea behind Merveil is she's a siren. And as a siren, she's trying to pull you towards you. And if you can't actually follow her to the door here. And one nice touch that I really like, and I know that Grinding Gear Games has changed a little bit in terms of what they display in the game. I remember some controversial self-censorship that they did with some of the stuff for Piety's experiments in Act 3. But one of the things I still find pretty interesting is that the siren that appears is different for each character. Like, based on what their love interest would be, whether it's male or female. And without spoiling it any further, not everyone's heterosexual, and I know some people freak out at that even if they won't say it in the comments, because they'll get lambasted in the comments, assuming anyone comments on the video here. But I think it's just kind of a, it's little, I don't want to even call it Easter eggs, but it's just little touches like that. The attention to detail to me that really sets this game apart from other free-to-play games. I don't even think it's really fair to, as we have just a male siren appearing right there for the witch, who is a girl. You can see her here just a little bit through the wall. I don't think this is the way, but we're going to do it anyway. Said there's a lot of free-to-play games out there. There are a lot of free-to-play games out there that are good. Hearthstone's a free-to-play game. It's good. I play a lot of games on my phone that are good. But the attention to detail that Grinding Gear Games has put in Path of Exile really, really outclasses a lot of paid games. Alright, minus 11 resistances, 35 extra damage is lightning, 30% more items. Yeah, sure, why not? Let's just make this a longer video. Screw it. I know we have Merveil around. We can level up Discipline in just a little bit. Which maybe I don't want to level Discipline. But these little side areas, they're like mini maps. Maps, if you're not familiar with Path of Exile. And I'm only familiar with it from like reading about things here, but because I have not actually gotten to the point of the game yet, where there could be maps after, once again, how long of playing? Point being that the in-game content for Path of Exile is not quite like Greater Rifts in Diablo 3, although it's clear that D3 kind of took some inspiration from Path of Exile. The idea is that you get these maps or items that drop that'll open up a dungeon. And you can, just like any other item in the game, you can augment, you can modify it, you can try and roll for random mods. So you have, like this player has less resistances, monsters deal lightning damage, and you can get rare maps too where there's even more modifiers, things like that. And and you get more goals as a result of that. And you can upgrade and eventually play higher level maps. There is some criticism just in terms of eventually maps get so high that you're like level 80 or something, and you're still doing maps in the level 60s and 70s because that's just, you get a bad streak of drops. And that's action RPGs for you. Not too much else to say other than we are getting some good experience. Though we are on even con, and that little mark down there is one of my least favorite things. It is literally, until my people kill one of these things, other allies can't die. So that's fun. one of the more annoying attributes for my summoning group, where you want to focus fire that one thing that died. And we didn't get it. But here's the Val Vessel. You like doing these dungeons. Because, okay, well, at least on earlier difficulties, they give you different things. Now I have Sacrifice at Noon, which is different than just getting a Val Gem. Can be used in the internal laboratory or personal map device. So probably something good there. Anything really worth... Okay, that's a Chromatic Orb. I know that's Chromatic Orb because it's 3 link with 3 different colors. So, Chromatic Orbs are pretty good. Yeah, probably not too much to actually pick up here. We're just going to carry on. Alright, so we got to go completely the other way. Not a total waste. Alright. We'll get some squiddy summon friends. Okay, see, it's once again trying to beckon me to go to the north side of the map. It's nice when you have a guide through these caverns, I guess. Now, if you haven't seen the little green text down on the bottom in terms of just who the siren's calling out for, Act 4 explains a little more about the origin story for the siren. I bet you do, and that's why we're probably just going to try and kill you now. Ready? I think we're okay. It's not hardcore, so I don't have to be as scared of death. Just give us everybody a little heal over time. We have decent cold resist given our rings. Let's just do it. Okay, now here's Merveil the Siren. She does a lot of ice damage. She resists chaos. She resists elemental damage, but I'm already doing... Whoa! Lag spike as she teleported across the room. I told you before, this harkens back to Lagomancer to a point, and I'm not kidding, especially when my connection speed's a little bit shoddy as is. Still, all these years later, and I still have not figured out what good internet is like. So second form Merveil, going to be about like the first. Maybe that's where Summon Raging Spirit's good, except that it wants to attack all the little side minions. But at least those things are pretty fast. As we get lots of little things summoning, and not necessarily the boss. We don't want to stand in the fire or column of water, though. Now, these guys should be prioritizing what I right-click as a target. Doesn't mean they always will, but she's dead. So cool. There we go. Once again, not a lot of items to really work with here. Maybe some things will be better eventually. Lots of stuff I can't use. Some stuff I could sell. Hollowed Mana Flask probably plays okay, but let's go and just go through the door. Because now, somehow, magically, well, we have a damp diary here.
Kissed me, promised that he would be by my side forever. I sang for him. I sang for Oriath with his gem at my throat. Khaleesi's gem. Khaleesi's voice. I sang in her echo, performing arias that had once made the Empire weep. I listened to Khaleesi's lullabies in my dreams. I gave myself to her music, mind and body. Duresso left me for San with a promise to free me from Khaleesi. I begged him not to go, tried to show him the wonder of my transformation, the beautiful daughters he would soon meet. He couldn't see. None of them could see. I fled from their hatred. When Duresso returns, I will cast his cure away. I will teach him what true love is.
And you'll learn a little bit more about Duresso in Act 4. But that's pretty much going to be it for here. This is Asher. Free Play Friday. Played a little longer than I expected, but you know, that's fine. That's what we do sometimes if the video just keeps going and I just feel like shooting or talking or whatever. Cool. If you have any thoughts, feel free to leave it in the comments. Play Path of Exile 2. Want to join me in my... I play plenty of hardcore as well, and I'm still working my way back up. But for now, like I said, my goal here is just to get someone up to Merciless, someone up to doing Merciless maps, and work from there. But I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking around. I'll see you next time.